one of the seminarians here, and welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Princeton, where in our open and welcoming community, we live our message of hope, love, justice, and joy. We extend a special welcome to our visitors this morning. We're glad that you're here and invite you to stop by our welcome table after worship in Robinson Lounge, which is just outside those double doors in the back, so that we can answer your questions and get to know you a little bit better. Again, welcome to our congregation, and we're very happy that you have joined us. We do have a pair of announcements this morning, and for the first one, I'm going to turn it over to Margie Herman.
It's a big day for the music ministry here. This evening, starting at 5:30, we begin our annual meet and greet. So this is a chance for those of you who haven't participated in our music ministry as of yet to come and see what it's all about. The choir will be there, the adult choir, singing choir will be there, as well as the bell choir. So at 5:30, we meet and have some delicious finger food and we chat. And then at 6:30, each of us goes to our separate rehearsal rooms and we sing some of the music that's going to be featured in the fall. So it's a great chance. We always welcome anybody who wants to just come and see what it's all about. And if you want to sing or ring, that's even better. So tonight at 5:30 for the food, 6:30 for the music. Thank you.
Thank you, Margie. For our second announcement, it comes from our outreach committee pertaining to our water communion. Yes, it is that time of the year already, which is in 2 weeks' time. The water we bring together for this special service is symbolic of our shared faith, coming from many different sources. As one of the informal kickoff points to the congregational year, what better time could there be to invite a loved one, be they friend, family, coworker, to see what UUCP is all about? They can come watch or participate in whatever fashion they choose and maybe even come to the welcome table afterward. So remember to bring some water from home for the ceremony on Sunday, September 10th. It's 2 Sundays away, and perhaps a visitor too. And now let us take a moment to take a deep breath as we settle in for this time of worship. We gather here together on this Sunday in the spirit of the principles we believe in. We gather here together in the spirit of acceptance and in the worth and dignity of those around us as well as ourselves. We gather here together in the spirit of community and to celebrate the diversity that makes us who we are, human. It is through our shared humanity that we work together to build a community that celebrates the gifts and the diversity that each of us brings here. And as a woman, a lesbian, and a trans woman, I am grateful to be welcomed here as I am. And whether you be a guest or a longtime member, I hope that whoever you are, wherever you are on your life's journey, please know that you are welcome here.
There are only 2 days in the year that nothing can be done. One is called yesterday, and the other is called tomorrow. Today is the right day to love, believe, do, and mostly live. The Dalai Lama.
This morning's meditation comes from the pen of Nathan C. Walker, and I invite all of us to take a moment to settle into our seats and get comfortable. Let your eyes drift closed. Breathing in, I am aware of my pain. Breathing out, I am aware that I am not my pain. Breathing in, I am aware of my past. Breathing out, I am aware that I am not my past. Breathing in, I am aware of my anger. Breathing out, I am aware that I am not my anger. Breathing in, I am aware of my despair. Breathing out, I am aware that I am not my despair. Breathing in, I am aware of peace. Breathing out, I am aware that I am worthy of peace. Breathing in, I am aware of love. Breathing out, I am aware that I am worthy of love. Breathing in, I am aware of joy. Breathing out, I am aware that I am an agent of joy. Breathing in, I am aware of hope. Breathing out, I am aware that I am an agent of hope. Breathing in, I am aware. Blessed be, and amen.
My family just returned from our summer vacation. We went to Yap, where we rented a beautiful bayside house, spent our days at the beach, a water park, and Colonial Williamsburg. Prior to going, I fretted and fretted some more about whether or not the kids would have a good time. My husband and I have 3 kids, 19 and 15-year-old sons, and a 6-year-old daughter. Because of the age gap between the middle and youngest children, and that too cool for school element with the boys, I was worried about finding activities that they would all enjoy. I planned some more. I replanned. I became so anxious about how the trip was going to go that I thought there was no possible way I was going to enjoy myself. After months of worry, we finally got underway and the trip was really fantastic. What I quickly realized was that it wasn't about what activities we had or hadn't planned, but the fact that we were together and enjoying each other's company. Our eldest had been in Ireland for his first year of college last year, so it was nice to have the time to spend with him. My husband is a bit of a workaholic, so we were all grateful that he didn't pull out his computer, not even once, to do work. Actually, it was wonderful for us all to get away from our screens. I am a perfectionist and a people pleaser. I want things to go a certain way, and I want everyone to be happy. Thankfully, I'm also able to roll with punches. So when I got a bad sunburn on day 2, our eldest cut his finger with a sharp kitchen knife, and we thought he might need stitches on day 4, and we got going way too late for Colonial Williamsburg on day 5. We all soldiered on and chalked things up to experience. We lived in the moment. We didn't worry about what was supposed to have happened. I was very proud of all of us for going with the flow. Sure, emotions flared from time to time. It would have been superhuman of us if they hadn't, considering all 5 of us were squished into my Prius for hours on end. But we really did have fun together, eating fried seafood, playing in the waves, and watching a butter churning demonstration. On our last day, I was disappointed in myself when I started to think about everything I needed to do when I got home. Why couldn't I just be there in those moments, enjoying our quickly fleeting time together? I suppose it's in my nature to always be planning. But is it entirely in my nature? I was able to put things on hold for a few days and just enjoy my kids' laughter and my husband's dorky jokes and the road trip snacks. So I have it in me to pause every once in a while, and that gives me hope. It gives me hope going into what is surely to be a hugely hectic year of teaching, performing, running the kids from activity to activity, errands, and everything else that comes with being human. I just need to remember to stop, breathe, and look at the world the way my 6-year-old does, with wonder and inquisitiveness and excitement and joy. In closing, I'd like to quote Albert Einstein. The best preparation for the future is to live as if there were none.
The late Thich Nhat Hanh The monastic Vietnamese Buddhist monk had shared a story from when he was growing up as a child. His school teacher had informed his class that they would be making a trip to visit the top of a nearby mountain to visit a hermit that happened to live there. This hermit happened to be a monk that happened to live alone and would sit quietly day and night in order to try and be more like the Buddha. After spending a day preparing food and water for the trip, the class set out for the long hike that it would take to reach the mountain. And once at this mountain, he began to climb as quickly as possible with his friends. They walked as fast as they could all the way to the top of the mountain, drinking all the water that they had prepared. And when they had reached the top, they were all very tired and very thirsty. They looked about for the hermit monk, but all that they were able to find was the small bamboo and straw hut the hermit used for shelter. So they continued to search, but the monk was nowhere to be found. His friends began to eat lunch, but he decided to continue to search the monk by climbing a little bit further up the mountain. Leaving his friends behind, he headed deeper into the forest on the mountain, where he heard the sound of dripping water. The sound drew him to find a natural well, a small pool surrounded by big rocks. Being very thirsty, he knelt down and drank. This was the best tasting water that he had ever had in his life, and he felt completely satisfied, not wanting anything or desiring anything at all. Even his desire to meet the hermit was gone, and in his mind, he had this feeling that he had met the hermit. Laying down to rest for a few minutes, he looked up, saw a branch of a tree against the deep blue sky, and fell asleep. Awakening a while later, he remembered everything: the water, the branch against the blue sky, but it was time for him to rejoin his classmates. So he sat down with them to eat his lunch, and his friends began to ask him about where he was. But he had no desire to talk at all. He only wanted to hold on to the experience he had just had up the mountain. So he sat down, kept on reflecting on his adventure, and ate his lunch quietly, with his meal being incredibly delicious. I'm sure that I could venture a very safe guess that the vast majority of us would consider our lives to be very busy or possibly downright hectic. How many of us may find ourselves thinking about our to-do lists, the things that need to get done, that pile of laundry, the grocery shopping, those thank you cards that we probably need to send out. Oops. What about that work assignment that your boss said needed to get done? How many of us are thinking about our next appointment in our calendar, or are thinking about planning that perfect family vacation? How many of us may go zipping down the highway in a hurry to get to our next destination? Speaking as someone who works a full-time job, goes to school part-time, does public speaking, does things for here, takes care of a house, and on my to-do list goes, I can guarantee you that I find myself constantly returning to that mindset of what is the next thing to get done. As a society, we have become a people that is constantly measured by the things that we do and the things that we accomplish. We've become so focused on doing that many of us have forgotten the simple act of being. And in that process of being so focused on doing, we may find ourselves in a state of constant anxiety or some other negative trait. We've become a people that's racing up the mountain, seeking the hermit. And when we don't find him, we're off to the races again, searching for more. Jedi Master Yoda probably said it best in this particular quote: all his life, he looked away to the future, never his mind on where he was. what he was doing. Very sage words. And I would not do Frank Oz the injustice of saying it in that voice. An honest question. How many of us have ever heard the expression of stop and smell the roses? All right. Here's another question. How many of us have ever actually done so? And we can say this with any type of flower. Okay, all right. So we have a decent mix of folks where some of us have stopped and smelled the flowers and some that haven't. But for both groups that have and haven't, let's see if we can delve a little bit more into this idea of stopping to smell the roses. An aspect of Buddhism, as well as the secularized and increasingly popular mindfulness movement, has sought to counter a lot of the narratives that we have come to build in our lives and in our society at large. Now, for those that are not familiar with it, mindfulness, and in particular mindfulness meditation, is a mental training practice that helps teach you to slow down racing thoughts, let go of negativity, and calm your mind and body. Now, many of us, when we think of meditation, we think of, well, maybe the stereotypical image of someone meditating. And many of us may envision someone sitting in a cross-legged position, back straight, breathing in and out, while keeping as empty of a mind as one could. I myself had this vision of meditation and always thought that meditation was beyond my reach as someone that has way too hectic of a life filled with stress. However, I was lucky enough to recently be able to take a semester of a class on mindfulness while working on the tail end of my Master of Divinity. It was in this class where I learned that that particular image of meditation, which had been so ingrained in my mind, was an incomplete description of meditation, and in particular, mindfulness. One of the definitions that stuck with me from the class was the description that at the heart of any form of meditation lies attention, specifically how we pay attention and how we choose what to pay attention to. In other words, it's all in the intentionality and focus that we provide to something we're doing that is able to pull us into this very moment so that we've become fully present to what it is that we're doing. An example of something like taking a bath very intentionally, where one hyper focuses on the feel of the water, of the sponge on their skin, of the temperature of the water, a complete focus on the physical feelings of the moment. Another example is something like doing yoga, focusing on the positions we are being led through, the flow of our breath, the positioning of our bodies. And one final example is something that has become my own personal go-to in the realm of mindfulness meditation. And that is my fairly recent hobby turned spiritual practice of painting miniatures for Dungeons and Dragons. As I mentioned a few moments ago, intentionality is the key, and one has to be very present in the moment while doing something like painting a miniature. Each tiny brushstroke allows for that practice of intentionality. And one cannot help but become fully present in the process of having the outside world just fade away. Because if one isn't able to become fully present, then the difficulty definitely ramps up tremendously in painting. And it is this type of meditative exercise that I do to help calm down any anxieties I might have running through my own life. But doing things like quiet meditation, yoga, or painting miniatures isn't good for just reducing the stress and anxiety in our lives. Recent studies have shown and looked at the benefits that these types of exercises provide to each and every one of us. And they've shown that it has created an ability for us to be able to cope better with the painful events in our lives. and dealing with the negative emotions which can emerge from those particular painful events. These studies have shown that those who made it and continue to make a habit of mindfulness meditation perceive stress differently and tend to use more problem-solving approaches to stress rather than avoiding those stressors in our lives. It has been shown that many who practice mindfulness have found their attention and concentration improving. I mean, in a logical way, this makes sense, as the practice of focusing one's attention and something that they are doing would cause a broader benefit to increase one's ability to focus overall. Additionally, because the practice of mindfulness allows us the ability to become aware of our bodies, it has been shown that those that practice mindfulness increase their own self-awareness in detecting harmful, reactive patterns of thoughts, feelings, and action. So this in turn may help reduce addictive behaviors that we may find ourselves doing. Addictive behaviors such as smoking, drinking, or one that I know I'm guilty of, gaming too much. As I mentioned before, many of us may live lives where we are in a state of constant chronic stress, and it can be no surprise that heart disease is one of the leading causes of death in the United States. Constant practice of mindfulness has even shown to increase our body's ability to cope with the stressful things in our lives, or in other words, our resiliency to these stressors. And both the CDC and the American Heart Association performed studies that shown that mindfulness reduces the blood pressure of a group of individuals, especially those who are at risk of hypertension. And they've shown that their studies have shown that a larger population of individuals wishing to quit smoking, one of the largest risk factors for heart disease, remained abstinent through the use of mindfulness practice. Many of us are probably by now rolling the questions in our mind of this being all well and good, but who has the time for this? For Thich Nhat Hanh, that trip up the mountain where he had that spiritual experience was a life-changing event for him. It was an event that taught him the beauty of slowing down and focusing on this very moment that we are in our lives. For him, it was that simple act of drinking that water and laying back to watch a branch against the blue sky that helped him find a lifetime of calm and contemplation. I suspect that many of us may be doing some simple things that have us being on the cusp of adopting a meditative practice into our own lives in some way, shape, or form, and finding those fleeting moments of calm and contemplation. For me, as I mentioned, the simple act of painting miniatures or even sewing, when coupled with the intentionality of being present and focused completely on what I'm doing, are what have become the spiritual and meditative practices that I have turned to when I find myself stressed out. And there are things that we are currently doing in our own lives that we can turn into these types of mindful and meditative practices by habitually applying a focused look on the intentionality of what we're doing. Perhaps on that walk with the dog, we can focus on the sound of the wind rustling in the trees, counting and tracking the location of the different birds that we may hear, paying attention to the warmth of the sun on our skin and the feel of the earth beneath our feet. Or maybe while we're exercising our bodies, we can become focused on our breath and the feeling of how our bodies move and the tension of our muscles. Perhaps while we're on that car ride with someone else to wherever our destination is, enjoying just being in the car and spending that time with someone else, or even if we're by ourselves, to just enjoy the experience of driving instead of rushing off to the next thing that we're doing. Or maybe it's even something as simple as the act of drinking our morning tea or coffee. As we sit there, we can clear our minds as we focus on the warmth of the cup, the smoothness of the mug, the taste of the drink against our tongues. Does it have a delicious aroma that we can lose ourselves in? As we move forward with the rest of our day, I would encourage us all to reflect on where can we find those moments where we can create mindfulness practices and bring ourselves to focus on the here and now instead of the things that we need to do and the stress that those things bring. What have we got to lose? Perhaps only our stress. Blessed be, and amen. We can remain seated for this one. For our benediction, may love and compassion guide you in all that you do. May wisdom help you to seek responsible truths and meanings. May inspiration lead you to new places, and may the hope you bring be a beacon for others. May you share your beautiful gifts with the world. Go in peace, and amen.